Good day, everyone. I am Vance, Yanna Buan, together with Victoria Marie Brofas, Arbe Camacho, Patricia Diamante, and Angelica Munda. We will discuss our comparative analysis in history of architecture too.
Good day to you, Mom. My name is Arbe Camacho from Art 204, and this is my analysis to the contemporary architecture that can be found locally in the Philippines. The Iloilo Convention Center, located at Mandurriao, Iloilo City, Philippines. Designed by architect William Cosquiluela. Background of the project. Iloilo City is one of the most developed urban areas in the country. The creation of Iloilo Convention Center among the many infrastructure projects in Iloilo in the recent times validates and supports the city's status. Architects. Architect William Cosquiluela of the WBCA is the genius behind the Iloilo Convention Center, having practiced for 5 decades and leading the industry with consecutive notable projects in different key areas of the country, as well as in nearby Asia and other international countries. He established his firm as a reliable and consistent service provider that made his firm a natural choice of leading businesses and individual customers. As the firm enters the era of sustainability, architect Cosquiluela again leads the way in advocating for green growth and pushing an agenda for environmentally sound ideas and practices. Building characteristics. Number 1. The cultural inspiration. The colorful sails dancing to the wind and the beat of the surf during the Parao Regatta Festival served as the inspiration for the landmark exterior of the building. The famous Dinagyang Festival is also incorporated in the design and can be seen through the stencils of warriors on the building's glass panels. Number 2. Strategic location. Iloilo Convention Center will be a part of 54-hectare Iloilo Business Park and near the community's hotels, BPO offices, and retail and leisure attractions. The building's location is a perfect fit for the building purposes as because the surrounding area are filled with businesses community that will always be in a place for meetings and conference. Number 3. Sustainable design. Architect William Cosquiluela always considered the environment whenever he designs a building and engraved it to his principles to always consider the nature whenever he takes on a project. We can assure that if he practiced it in decades, then the Iloilo Convention Center is also one of the buildings that he used a sustainable design approach. Number 4. Functionality. The convention center can accommodate over 4,700 guests. The main convention hall will be at the ground level and the 8 function rooms at the second floor with the state-of-the-art audio and video equipment. It will also house a kitchen designed to international standards and a museum or a souvenir shop. In designing the Iloilo Convention Center, he prioritizes the purpose of the building than anything else. Comparative analysis. While being compared, we can hide the fact that these both buildings are in their own league. They both achieve and exceed their purposes, function accordingly to their uses, both are aesthetically pleasing, and most important, they give pride to each their country. While being similar in design in a sense of capturing the culture of the environment where it is located, the architects really outdid themselves in conceptualizing and designing these buildings. Only time can tell if the legacy of these two buildings can create another building as remarkable as the both of them.
Good day, everyone. I am Vance, Buan, and I will discuss about the Sydney Opera House by architect John Uddson of contemporary architecture. Next is the background of the project. Architect John Uddson, type opera house, design style contemporary and modern, location Bennelong Point, Sydney 2000, Australia, completed on March 2, 1959. The Sydney Opera House is a great architectural work of the 20th century that brings together multiple strands of creativity and innovation in both architectural form and structural design. A great urban sculpture set in a remarkable waterscape at the tip of a peninsula projecting into Sydney Harbour. The building has had an enduring influence on architecture. The Sydney Opera House comprises 3 groups of interlocking vaulted shells which roofed two main performance halls and a restaurant. The Opera House is Sydney's best-known landmark. It is a multi-purpose performing arts facility whose largest venue, the 2,679-seat concert hall, is host to symphony concert, choir performances, and popular music shows. Opera and dance performance, including ballet, and takes place in the Opera Theater, which seats just over 1,500 seats. Next is the architect. Architect John Utzon. The architect of Sydney Opera House. John Utzon was a relatively unknown 38-year-old Dane in January 1957 when his entry was announced winner of the international competition to design a national opera house for Sydney's Bennelong Point. His vision for a sculptural curved building on the harbour broke radically with the cube and rectangular shapes of modernist architecture. The building transformed his career and in turn transformed the image of an entire nation. He was born on April 9, 1918 in Copenhagen. When he grew up in the town of Aalborg, where his father was a naval architect, engineer, and director of local shipyard. A keen sailor, Utzon originally intended to follow his father as a naval engineer, but opted to study architecture at the Copenhagen Royal Academy of Arts. After graduating in 1942 with a diploma in architecture, he worked in Sweden until the end of the World War II. Utzon was influenced by Swedish architect Gunnar Asplund and later Alvar Aalto, with whom he worked in Finland for a short period after the war. In 1949, he received a grant that enabled him and his wife to lease to travel extensively in USA and Mexico, coming into contact with some of the most influential architects and designers of his day, including those at Frank Lloyd Wright School at Tallinn, Mies van der Rohe, Wright and Charles frames. Next is the building characteristic. Number 1. Functionality. The Opera House is Sydney's best-known landmark. It is multi-purpose performing arts facility whose largest venue, the 2,679-seat concert hall, is host to symphony concert, choir performances, and popular music shows. Next, expressionist architecture. The Sydney Opera House is a modern, expressionist design. Expressionism, the style was characterized by an early modernist adoption of novel materials, formal innovation, and very unusual massing, sometimes inspired by natural bioformic forms and sometimes by new technical possibilities offered by the mass production of brick, steel, and glass. Next, the form and concept of the Sydney Opera House. Utzon designed the building with a series of arched, white roofs shaped like the sail of boats to reflect his love for sailing. Next is the comparative analysis of Iloilo Convention Center and Sydney Opera House, which is the contemporary architecture of international and local. Next is the comparative analysis. Building name, Iloilo Convention Center, with architect William Coscuela, and Sydney Opera House with architect John Utzon. Inspired from Iloilo Convention Center, exterior fins design is inspired by Parao Regatta sailboats. An abstract design of the famous Dinagyang Festival are featured on the glass walls of Iloilo Convention Center. Next is a Sydney Opera House inspired by nature, its forms, functions, and colors. Utzon was influenced in his design by bird wings, the shape and forms of clouds, shells, walnuts, and palm trees. Next is the floor area. Iloilo Convention Center has a floor area of 11,832 square meters, while Sydney Opera House has 44,000 square meters. And type of building, Iloilo Convention Center is a conference center, while Sydney Opera House is a performing arts center.
My name is Patricia Diamante. So now, I am going to discuss the Santa Maria Church located in Ilocos Sur and St. Peter's Square located in Piazza San Pedro will be discussed by Angelica Munda. So Santa Maria Church. So the architect of this building is the Augustinian Friars. When we say Augustinian Friars, these are the members of Christian religious orders that follows the rules of Saint Augustine. So the type of this building is church. The design style is earthquake baroque, located in Santa Maria Town, Ilocos Sur Province, and completed on 1741. Background of the project. So Baroque churches in the Philippines was built during the Spanish colonial period. Spanish missionaries along with Filipinos and Chinese migrants were some of the people who influenced the design of the Baroque churches, highlighting Spanish structures. So one of the 4 Baroque churches in the country is the Santa Maria that was built by Augustinian friars as a chapel for the town of Narvacan back in 1769. So 40 years later, the bell tower beside the church was built in 1810 as a home for missionaries going to Abra. While most churches around the country are situated just across the town square or the municipality, Santa Maria Church is situated on the top of a hill overlooking the town and can be accessed through an almost 80 concrete step going up. So today, the church is inscribed as the World Heritage as a part of the Baroque churches of the Philippines, as it embodies Spanish-era characteristics such as stone bricks, massive buttresses on the sides that serve as protection to the wall, and hexagonal bell tower separated from the church. Inside, the walls are painted white with the barreled ceilings and black hanging chandeliers. The typical wooden seats are neatly placed on the sidelines, highlighting the tiles on the center aisle, leading to the blue and gold pillar altars.
For the international part in Baroque style, we have St. Peter's Square. St. Peter's Square is one of the largest and most beautiful squares in the world. It is located in Vatican City and at the feet of St. Peter's Basilica. In the liturgies and more noticeable events, St. Peter's Square has held more than 300,000 people. St. Peter's Square or Piazza San Pietro was designed by Gian Lorenzo Bernini. He was an Italian sculptor and architect. This structure consists of 2 parts. The trapezoidal section in front of the facade of St. Peter's Basilica, which is called Piazza Retta and has an area of 12,300 meters squared or 40,354 feet squared. Next one is the elliptical section framed by the colonnades of Bernini. The elliptical part has a maximum width of 240 meters and a depth of 340 meters, with an area of 35,300 meters squared. Here a picture of St. Peter's Square. St. Peter's Square has borders from 2 sides by semicircular colonnades. According to Bernini, these colonnades represent the stretched arms of the church which embraces the world. To the left and right of the obelisk, you can see the circular marble plates that indicate the foci of the elliptical square. Interestingly, when you stand on either of these plates and look at any colonnade in the square, it will look as if there is only 1 row of columns instead of 4. This trick shows Bernini's talent not only as a sculptor or architect, but also his knowledge of geometry. One of the first things that catches your attention when you come to the square is an impressive colonnade of 4 rows. There are 284 columns and 88 pilasters that flank the square. The Doric columns are 20 meters high and 1.6 meters wide. Moreover, there are 140 statues of different saints created in 1670 by famous Bernini and his students. The statues depict popes, martyrs, evangelists, and other important religious figures. Next one is the obelisk, which stands in the center of St. Peter's Square. Pope Sixtus V had the obelisk installed in front of the new St. Peter's Basilica that was under construction at the time in 1586. The obelisk is 25.31 meters tall and weighs 330 tons. The base is 8.25 meters high and weighs 175 tons. These two fountains within St. Peter's Square sit either side of the central obelisk. To maintain symmetry of the fountain by Moderna, Bernini decided to create an identical copy of the fountain on the left side of the square. Consequently, the fountain was created by Carlo Fontana according to the project of Bernini.
Hello, my name is Victoria Marie Brofas and I'm here to tackle about Gothic architecture. Gothic Architecture International. Cathedral Notre Dame de Amiens, or Amiens Cathedral. Background of the project. The architects are Robert de Los Arches, then his assistant, Thomas de Cormont, then his son, Renaud de Cormont, and Pierre Taricel. The building type of this structure is a Roman Catholic church. The design style is Gothic architecture located in Amiens, France. Amiens Cathedral is mainly built between 1220 to 1288. It is a masterpiece of Gothic architecture for the beauty of its interior elevation, its prodigious sculpted decoration, and its stained glass. Amiens Cathedral exercised an important influence on the later development of Gothic architecture. Several of the solutions retained at Amiens heralded the advent of the flamboyant style in monumental architecture and sculpture. Amiens Cathedral is one of the largest churches in France and one of the most complete 13th century Gothic churches. Robert de Los Arches, a French architect. Born in 1180 in Les Arches, France, and died in 1228 in Amiens, France. Robert de Los Arches was a 13th century French architect who worked on the Cathedral of Notre Dame in Amiens. He is said to have been summoned to Paris by King Philip II, who employed him in beautifying the city, and to have had a share in the work on Notre Dame de Paris. Building characteristics of Amiens Cathedral. It has a remarkable interior with a soaring nave and bold supporting columns, employing the logic of Romanesque while imposing the open and dramatic qualities of Gothic. The flying buttresses are the architectural feature that made possible the exceptional height of the walls of the nave and choir. The arch buttresses leap over the outer lower level of the cathedral, where the ambulatory and chapels are located, to strengthen the upper walls of the clerestory. Although it has lost much of its original stained glass, Amiens Cathedral is renowned for the quality and quantity of early 13th century Gothic sculpture in the main west facade and the south transept portal. Rib vaults were frequently used in medieval buildings, most famously in Gothic cathedrals, including Amiens Cathedral. Gothic architecture, local, San Sebastian Church. Background of the project, architect, Gennaro Palacios. The building type of the structure is a Roman Catholic church. The design style is neo-Gothic architecture. Located in Quiapo, Manila, Philippines, it is completed on 1891. The San Sebastian Church or Basilica Minore de San Sebastian is an all-steel Roman Catholic church located in Plaza del Carmen, Quiapo, Manila. It features a remarkable and well-preserved Gothic Revival architecture that attracts many tourists and is claimed as Asia's only steel church. Also, it is considered as a National Historic Landmark, National Cultural Treasure, and included on the tentative list of World Heritage Site. Gennaro Palacios, a Spanish architect, born in 1832 in Dijon, France, and died in 1923, Paris, France. Don Gennaro Palacios is a Spanish architect who designed the steel Basilica Minore de San Sebastian in Quiapo, Manila, Philippines. His architectural design for this basilica is a fine example of the revival of Gothic architecture in the Philippines. He was approached by Father Esteban Martinez, the parish priest during those times, to design a new church building. He planned to make an earthquake and fire-resistant church made entirely of steel. Building characteristics of San Sebastian Church. The exterior or the facade is painted in light blue with towering aspires, while the interior, which is mostly in shades of brown, has steel columns and groin vaults. It has a majestic murals on top of the dome with images of saints and majestic stained glass windows. Comparative analysis of Amiens Cathedral and San Sebastian Church. The architect of Amiens Cathedral is Robert de los Arches, while San Sebastian Church architect is Gennaro Palacios. The structure of Amiens Cathedral is masonry structure made with stones, and San Sebastian Church is a steel structure made with steel. Both of the structure has different vaults. Amiens Cathedral has rib vault, while San Sebastian Church has groin vault. Both of the structure is a Roman Catholic church and both has stained glass windows. And that's all, thank you.
And this is our references. And again, I am Vance, Yanna, Buan, together with Victoria Marie Brofas, Arbe Camacho, Patricia Diamante, and Angelica Munda, and this is our comparative analysis in History of Architecture 2. Thank you for watching and God bless.